Welcome back again, citizens. It's Matt with Madrealm Gaming, and today I'm giving you a crash course on everything you need to know about the new changes to mining and how to use the refineries that just arrived in 3.12. Before we get started, I'd like to thank all my subscribers and especially my patrons over on Patreon. Your support helps to make this channel possible, and I hope you enjoy the video. Patch 3.12 has brought a healthy amount of new content to the persistent universe of Star Citizen, and miners of the verse will now get to rejoice at the addition of the new refinery system. With extensive changes to Lagrange points around the universe, a new ship UI, consumables, changes to mining lasers, and a deeper gameplay loop for mining, we have several points to cover. Whether you're flying solo in a prospector or hanging out with a group of friends on the mole, or even rolling around with a squad of prospectors, there's a lot of choice to ship mining now. Let's start with the UI and basics for those of you just now getting into mining. The first thing you'll want to do is decide on a location to start your mining at. At this current time, it seems like most planets and moons are viable, but I've been having great success on Daymar and Crusader, Microtech proper, Magda out by Hurston, and Walla over in ArcCorp. Get yourself planetside, cruise along at a couple hundred meters per second, press tab to open up your scanner. Hold down right click to build up a charge and let go once it's built up. The longer you hold, the larger the scan radius and the longer the recharge time. You'll see signatures pick up on your radar or large square pings appear in sight. And you'll want to look for this boulder symbol as you get within 2 to 3 kilometers, depending on the size of the deposit. Once you find a rock, fly up close to it, and you'll see your scanner start a deep scan. Hold left click and it will tell you what's present in the rock. Pressing M will open your mining laser and also deep scan to show you the breakdown of your target. The mining laser has 2 modes, fracture and collect. Let's start with fracturing. Now that you have the new UI up, you will see your cargo capacity and current scan results of your target on the outside edges of your HUD. This scan result will tell you the type of deposit, total mass, the instability of the ore contained, and how resistant it is to building up a charge. Beneath that, you will also see the percentile breakdown of each resource in the deposit. Left of the center, you will see your current laser intensity, and on the right, the charge level for the deposit. Left click to start the fracturing process. Roll your mouse wheel up and down and you will see your power level on the left adjust accordingly. Normally, you want to start with a very high intensity when you first break a deposit. Now I sped this up for time's sake, but as you can see, the charge level slowly builds. We want to stop this gauge in that green optimal window. Once the bar reaches this, you'll see the larger green bar begin to fill. You want to keep the charge level steady in this green zone until it fills up and the rock cracks. Be careful not to overcharge, as this causes it to shatter instead of crack, sending rock flying, destroying resources in the deposit, and damaging your ship. Too much of an overcharge can completely destroy you and your ship with the deposit. You'll want to continue breaking these cracked deposits up until you see a blue outline when you target them, which means they're ready for collection. All you have to do is right click to swap to your collection laser, and then left click to start picking up your materials. With that covered, let's discuss the major changes on how we're going to handle mining now. Not only are the low-end materials worth picking up for certain strategies, but the high-end materials are now the most flexible to work with. All raw ore prices have dropped, so pulling in and quickly dumping a load of laranite immediately doesn't net the same amount that it used to. And not only can you refine your materials to get more profit in return, you're also seeing less inert materials in the deposits around the verse, which means you can get the same amount of laranite much faster. Combining this with a variety of refining methods and the specialization benefits of different refineries, there's actually good reason to pick up pure deposits of almost any kind now, though I'd probably still avoid aluminum. Refineries now allow you to convert your raw ore and minerals into cargo units for ships capable of carrying trade materials. This means making more money off the same load of materials as before, but with far more risk. You also have to spend a good amount of time refining what you've mined, though this can typically be handled while you're offline, AFK, or out mining for more refinery jobs. Refineries also have specialties, allowing them certain modifiers to the amount of refined materials you get at the end of the job. For instance, Crew L1 is the best place to bring Quantanium or Bexolite, granting you +3 and +5% respectively to yields on refining jobs done through this specific refinery. The thing that will most heavily affect your return, however, is the refining method that you choose. Each is very different, trading real-world time for return efficiency, though you can pay a little more to speed up the refining process, cutting into your profits. Now, I really enjoy this new refining system, but there's definitely a gripe I want to bring up at the end of discussing these different methods. Starting in order of speed, first we have the Cormac method. Though the fastest, you'll only get about 66% of what you've put in, assuming you have no modifier at this refinery. Moving up, we have the Gaskin process, which takes twice as long but gains you an 80% return at a high cost. Next, electrostarolysis, which also gains you 80% of your return, costs the same amount as the Cormac method, and it takes 4 times as long. This is probably what I'm going to see being the most used method. Next, we have pyrometric chromolysis, which yields 95%, costs as much as the Gaskin process, and takes 6 times longer than the Cormac method. Finally, we have Dink's solventation, which yields 95% of the materials for a very low cost, but takes 48 times as long as the Cormac method. 48 times. This is way too long, CIG. 12 times I could agree with, 24 times maybe, but 48 times as long just kind of feels arbitrary. As for cost, it doesn't seem that ore value affects the refinery price, just the quantity of ore that you're refining. Once you've finished refining your materials, just select which ship or ships you want to load it on, take that ship, and sell it at your preferred post. For new players, I would suggest Area 18, Lorville, or Microtech as good selling locations. Now, the reason this makes something like copper or gold mining viable is you can combine these refinery modifiers with the correct materials and mining methods to really leverage this new system. Let's say I have a load that's 40% inert, 55% copper, and 5% laranite. If I fly this load over to Referral 1 and run all of it through the electrostarolysis process, then I'll get 90% of return on copper and 84% on my laranite, due to getting 80% base from the process and adding the modifiers. What this effectively does is allows you to stockpile all of the extra copper, quartz, beryl, diamond, gold that you pick up while mining. For some bonus cargo runs on material you normally ignore, I'll take it. Plus, this also allows you to focus more on grabbing materials to return instead of constantly ignoring deposits because they're of lower value materials. Moving on, let's talk about mining lasers, as they've received the biggest tweak, adding more reasons for a variety of lasers in game. The Helix is still very good and likely ideal for solo miners, but if you're working with another prospector, outfitting a mole, well, now there's others worth considering. The Arbor is of course the baseline with no modifiers. The Lancet dramatically reduces the deposit's instability, resistance, and shatter damage, and improves the optimal charge window at the cost of reducing the optimal charge rate and lower power output. That's actually the weakest power output of all of the mining lasers, and the weird thing about that is it's definitely going to be on at least one of my mole's turrets because of how good these modifiers are. Next, we have the Helix, which, the trusty old Helix. Though it did receive a pretty significant nerf to give the Lancet a proper position, this is still probably the best all-around solo laser. It reduces instability, resistance, increases the charge window size, improves your charge rate while you're in the green zone, and it also pumps out the most power of all mining lasers. I'd recommend having this as your lead laser on a mole, or your laser of choice on a prospector. Hofstede mining lasers appear to simply be a worse Helix. Losing power and optimal window size for increasing shatter damage? I don't really know if I would use this one unless you really want a budget Helix. Let me know in the comments if you can figure out a good use. Now, the Impact is a laser that I think will no longer be overlooked with more skilled mole crews. Though it increases the instability of its target, it provides a great reduction to the deposit's resistance and has a great optimal window size modifier. Plus, it provides the same charge rate modifier as the Hofstede and Helix. There's a little more of a risk if you overcharge while using an Impact, as it increases the shatter damage and the charge rate if you're overcharged, but it provides a really large amount of power, and I think it would pair very well with a Helix and a Lancet at the same time. I'm going to go ahead and test this loadout out this week. Finally, we have Kleins. These are in the same position as the Hofstede, but they have a very weak power output. They cause the most instability and overcharge rate, and they barely outperform a Hofstede in modifying resistance and window size. Skip this one completely. With these changes in mind, make sure to ditch your Arbors. The Lancet, Helix, and Impact lasers are definitely the more distinct choices this patch. Last but not least, we have our mining consumables. You can equip these when swapping out your lasers, and they're activated by pressing Alt 1, 2, and 3 depending on which slot it's in. Starting with the consumables that I feel are the most useful, first we have the Optimum. This is an incredibly helpful consumable for those really stubborn, highly unstable quantanium pieces that have a really tiny charge window. Activate this and the charge window will immediately increase by 75%, though the rock does gain 10% instability. Next, there's the Lifeline, which immediately cuts all charge rates by 90% and reduces shatter damage by 90%. If you think your rock's going to blow up and you really don't want to use it, this is a good one to use at the last second. Then we have the Brand. This is really good for those Laranite and Negritium chunks that really don't want to build up a charge level and you want to kind of speed things up. The Torpid might be good if you're experiencing overheating for some reason, as it cuts your target's resistance by 20%, but reduces all charge rates and heat by 20%, and reduces your signature by 30%. It's a bit weird, but I could see some uses for this. Stampedes are useful for immediately building up an insane amount of charge, especially if you have a multi-crew, and it increases charge rates by 125%, so if you want to blow up rocks and piss your friends off, this is what you'll want to use. And then we have Forals. They seem to just kind of reduce resistance by 20% while increasing instability, heat, and signature. Not really sure why you would want to use this, considering the lasers do so much resistance modification. Finally, we have the Rime. It just reduces your heat and optimal charge window for your target, and works as a 30-second debuff. I really cannot think of a reason why you would use the Rime. Maybe to troll another miner? Can you guys let me know in the comments below if there's anything you can think of? They've also conveniently added a new shop with the refinery decks next to the mining guild that allows you to purchase Pembroke armor, a full set of rucksack armor, all of the other hand mining tools you could need, as well as the tractor beam, mining laser upgrades, and consumables. Plus you can rent the Grey Cat Rock, the Cutlass Black, and the Prospector all here at the refinery. If you want to get started with mining, make sure to stop in here. Alright, and that covers pretty much everything that I think we need to talk about in order to discuss 3.12's mining changes and what you need to do with refineries in the new patch. I also have a handy reference guide for Google Sheets down in the description below if you want to use that at any point in the future. That's a nice little helpful guide, I feel. Also, I've only noticed about 18% of you guys that watch my videos are subscribed. If you could hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up as always. I'm out of here. Keep an eye out over the next couple weeks. I've got some more videos coming out. Happy holidays, everybody.